and we go to item 7, which is particular petition number 0204 as of 2019 by Evelien Van Den Brink, Dutch, on a request for funding for biomedical research on myalgic encephalomyelitis. So we have a petitioner, Mrs. Evelien Van Den Brink, in the video recorded address. So we can start the video. Please.
President Montserrat, members of the Committee on Petitions. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for your follow-up of the petition and the adoption of the first resolution on ME by the European Parliament. This was a historic moment for the ME community. After the PETI meeting in 2019, I founded a small advocacy organization, the European ME Coalition. We are all ME patients or caregivers. The Commission shared its plans with us, and we were hopeful to see their words turned into deeds. But to be honest, the results so far have been rather bleak. Things are moving very slowly, and frankly, it is not clear in which direction. The Commission told us there could be no call specifically for ME, because calls in Horizon Europe do not focus on individual diseases. So a broader category of poorly understood illnesses had to be created. A scoping study would be needed to provide the justification to include this new category in future working programs of Horizon Europe. Representatives of the Commission said this would be the right way to ensure a more permanent solution similar to what was previously created for rare diseases. However, the Director General of Research and Innovation wrote in his letter of October this year that no topic will be structurally included in future work programs. This puts the purpose of the scoping study into question. Nevertheless, we believe the scoping study can be helpful if done the right way. The importance of inclusion of the patient voice in this process cannot be overemphasized. We have, unfortunately, seen endless delays, and the starting date of the study is still unknown. If the Commission is not really driven to turn this into a success, it likely won't be one. We also tried, as recommended by the Director General, to see if ME could be included in one of the European research networks, since the budget for these ERNs had increased considerably. ME patients would greatly benefit from a network allowing the scarce physicians specialized in this disease to share knowledge and experiences. We face great difficulty to get diagnosed, and it is nearly impossible to find a specialist who can help. We have contacted many people and services, hoping they could assist, but to our disappointment, this led to nothing. We didn't even get a reply from Sante, the responsible service. The ERN for neurological diseases would consider including ME, but this requires an official opening to expand the disease coverage, with approval from the Commission, Member States, and other ERNs. Exchanging clinical experiences could improve the quality of life of patients. There may be no cure yet, but that doesn't mean nothing can be done. Actively taking away the stigma by education and stopping harmful treatments would undo some of the damage we've had to endure for decades, on top of the devastation of the disease. Countries like the United States, Australia, and Canada have reserved substantial funding specifically for research on ME and created specialized centers. To me, this means that more can be done. It would be a shame if there was nothing moving at the EU level. ME has been ignored for decades, and the size of the problem will only increase if we keep ignoring it. ME is often triggered by an infection, and scientists believe that many patients who currently suffer from long COVID will go on to develop ME. The neglect of ME and related post-viral fatigue syndromes has left us unprepared for the long-term consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are not asking for much, just a fair amount of funding proportionate to the disease burden. ME has an economic impact of approximately 40 billion euros a year. Taking action is the sensible thing to do, but most of all, it is the human thing to do. Patients have already waited for decades, and we can't afford to lose more years waiting. Right now, ME is a life verdict. For us, it continues to be a tough battle, and we cannot do this alone. Please do not let the hope that you gave us perish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evelien. We are with you. Now we are going to give the floor to Ms. Berends, Catherine, from the European Union Commission.
Good morning, Ms. Van Den Brink, Chair, members of the Committee on Petition. Thank you for inviting the Commission to provide an update on funding for biomedical research on myalgic encephalomyelitis. The Commission acknowledges that myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, poses a heavy burden on patients and their families and recognizes that the lack of specific diagnostic tools and treatments to tackle this serious condition is a matter of concern. The EU has been funding research into ME/CFS and related diseases via Horizon 2020, the previous framework program for research and innovation. Projects include Help for Me, which was focused on improving the quality of life by correcting gut microflora imbalances in ME/CFS patients. Project Discovery, which is studying the causative mechanisms of irritable bowel syndrome comorbidities like ME/CFS with a view to enable a significant improvement in treatment methods, or the Project MAST-FAST focused on mast cell dysregulation, which is also observed in ME/CFS. The EU also supports the networking of researchers, for instance, via the EuroMene Cost Action, an integrated network of researchers and clinicians addressing gaps in ME/CFS knowledge, or the VIRE-A twinning project that is meant to improve networking between centers studying viral infection-induced autoimmunity research, including on ME/CFS. Other projects, such as projects dedicated to pain or fatigue, could also indirectly provide some insight into ME/CFS. I would also like to mention the research efforts undertaken to better understand long COVID and its sequelae. Several projects are supported in that respect, such as Orchestra, studying population-based cohorts that should also inform on longer-term consequences of COVID-19, or the COVISIS project, which is about to start and includes as an objective the identification of the risk and protective factors to infection and clinical manifestation, including long-term post-infection sequelae. We therefore expect more insight when it comes to chronic fatigue following COVID-19 infection. Despite these investments, we recognize the underrepresentation of the ME/CFS area in research projects, while there seems to be a lack of scientific evidence hampering the development of diagnostic and therapeutic options. This could also be the case for other medical conditions than ME/CFS, such as Lyme disease or back pain, for instance. To address this issue, the European Commission is initiating a study under the new Framework Programme for Research and Innovation, Horizon Europe. The scoping study will allow to better characterize medical conditions of high public health relevance that are relatively under-researched, like myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome. The study should address the gaps in robust scientific evidence needed to develop policies and practices to better tackle these conditions. And it should put forward reasons why these conditions are understudied, and this will help to set out potential research priorities for the forthcoming work programs. One important aspect of the study is that it should engage with different types of stakeholders, including patient representatives, in order to define the type of research or research priorities to better address patient needs. The call for tender for the study is currently being finalized, and we expect the study to be launched in early 2022. As there are still many challenges linked to ME/CFS that require attention, the start of Horizon Europe comes very timely. As in the past, there will be many opportunities for supporting research around myalgic encephalomyelitis under Horizon Europe. For instance, the health cluster of Horizon Europe will support collaborative research for tackling diseases and reducing disease burden. This includes a better understanding of diseases, their drivers and consequences, and the development of better methodologies for timely and accurate diagnosis, identification of personalized treatment options, and assessment of health outcomes. I would like here to underline that Horizon Europe is even more oriented to deliver impact for patients, citizens, and society compared to previous programs. And in order to achieve this, Horizon Europe will notably foster patient and caregivers' engagement in research and will look to better develop synergies with other programs like the new EU for Health. When it comes to addressing the limited number of ME/CFS researchers, Horizon Europe also supports the careers and mobility of researchers through grants from the European Research Council and the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. These schemes should also be considered to train future researchers in the field. The European Commission therefore invites researchers to seize these opportunities to advance their field in the benefit of patients. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'm giving the floor to Mr. Kanev, EPP.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will present the position of my colleague Alexander Bernhuber, but I want to point out that I fully support and share his position on this petition. Of course, we thank the petitioner for her detailed and quite moving presentation of this extremely serious disease. The petitioner referred to her poor health condition as she suffered from myalgic encephalomyelitis. It's the third time we discussed this disease, but it's unpronounceable. This disease is a devastating chronic disease that causes dysfunction of the neurological, immune, endocrine, and metabolism systems. The petitioner states that the disease affects approximately 2 million European citizens with huge economic and societal costs, thus representing a hidden public health crisis. Therefore, the petitioner calls on the European institutions to make sufficient funds available for biomedical research into the disease. This is necessary to provide diagnostic tests, clinical trials, and effective treatments for the disabling of the disease. As discussed on previous cases, I would add, the main problem here is really to diagnose, to have the real picture throughout the European Union, because very, very often this is a hidden disease, so people don't know that they suffer from it. They know they are ill, they are sick, and they have huge health problems, but they are not diagnosed. The European Commission already replied to this petition and recognized the importance of research for ME. The cause, that the chronic fatigue syndrome, is not known yet, makes the situation even harder, as the patients, as well as the medical doctors, do not know how to deal with this disease. This is why it is important to support research and innovation in this sector. It is proven that ME is connected to many other diseases and health problems. The health of our citizens always has to be our greatest interest, which is why no savings should be made in the research of new diseases. And of course, with all this argument, our position is for the petition to stay open.
Thank you very much. Now I'm giving the floor to Ms. Cristina Maestre, S&D.
Gracias, señora presidenta.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. It is true that this is not the first time that we're talking about these diseases in this committee, illnesses, diseases that cause a lot of suffering in those who have them. And one of the problems is to actually diagnose it. And if we take a look at ME, we know that there aren't really that many experts who can diagnose this and offer treatment. And at the same time, if you take a look at the diagnostic tests and the fact that they're not really covered, they feel that they're not ignored in the health system. And they don't have a proper treatment. There isn't enough knowledge about this particular disease, and it means that essentially they're stigmatized by the rest of society because people don't really understand the symptoms of ME. At the Petitions Committee, we've been giving a voice to these patients for at least a year and a half because there was a resolution that was adopted in June 2020 which allowed us to point the spotlight at this disease. The European Commission is accompanying us in this fight, but not only that, there are hundreds and thousands of Europeans who suffer from ME. We need a research project that is properly funded and has the right kind of logistical support so that we can come up with responses to these patients. First of all, we have to ensure that there are proper diagnostic tests which allow treatments to be prescribed to palliate the symptoms of this disease. And we need proper information as well. If you take a look at what we have today, there isn't enough data and information which allows us to get a proper idea of the burden on the patients that are suffering from these diseases, which means that there are probably thousands of European citizens without sufficient resources who fall by the wayside and have no access to the treatments. We have seen that those patients who suffer from ME are mainly women. And I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight the gender aspect when it comes to scientific research, because these are illnesses and diseases that do mainly affect women. And it's those diseases where there is least knowledge. There have been a number of requests and demands that have been made, but no progress has really been made when it comes to the research here by the institutions. 31 million euro are going to be allocated to European Union for Health, and then there is money that has been allocated to science and research projects under Horizon next year. But we do need a stronger commitment on the part of the European Commission and the Member States when it comes to the fight against ME. We cannot allow that once again we abandon these patients and they become invisible. If the pandemic has shown us anything at all, it means that we really have to have a strong health system and that all of us are fighting in the same direction in order to improve the health of all European citizens. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to hand the floor to Mr. Cañas from Renew.
Gracias, Presidenta.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to thank Mrs. Evelien, the petitioner. We know, of course, that there are very many associations at national level and European level who are fighting for more funding, more recognition of this disease. It's very difficult for me to actually start my comments. We started off the debate some time ago by the European Parliament adopting a resolution. The petition, the request, the situation of thousands and thousands of citizens has been politically channeled to this institution, and we were able to come up with a resolution with almost unanimous support. And we asked the Commission to provide specific funding to do research into this disease with genetic sequencing, etc., etc. So once again, we've heard a very moving intervention from the petitioner, and once again we're dealing with an issue where the European Parliament has already adopted a resolution and appropriated the issue, and we've indicated to the Commission what they should do. We can't force them to do it, but we've indicated to them what they should be doing. And once again, unfortunately, here we are again, because the Commission has not done what the European Parliament asked it to do. And this, I think, is something that we have to make perfectly clear. Very often we hear that the institutions don't listen to the citizens. They're very insensitive to citizens' issues. They ignore the pain of the citizens, the patients. But here, the European Parliament has a resolution and it has indicated to the Commission what it should do. And I think it's of grave concern that the European Commission has not given any follow-up to our specific requests from the European Parliament. If you take a look at the cases of chronic fatigue syndrome, they're increasing as a result of long COVID. And I think this should serve as an ideal opportunity to carry out broader research and more specific research. Poorer people, those who can't afford it, and young people as well, they can't wait. And there are quite a lot of young people who suffer from this disease as well. And we have to do as much possible so they can get the right kind of treatment. Time passes, the pandemic is continuing, and we have to come up with specific solutions to the situation of the most vulnerable. We cannot abandon and leave behind all of these people. These are people who suffer from pain, stigmatized, don't get proper empathy and understanding. We're talking about thousands of citizens. We want the Commission to carry out a proper analysis to take a look at this disease so it can be included as a new category of work in Horizon. 2, then we have to properly guide the association so that they can include ME into the European research projects, networks. And thirdly, we also want the Commission to make the most of its research potential and have a proper European coordinated project to research into ME together with the Member States. To sum up, we're asking that the petition be kept open and that the Commission act and that it call upon all Member States to implement the recommendation and the resolution and that they actively cooperate with the Commission to do research into ME. We need coordination, collaboration and union. We need to research recognise in order to be able to properly prescribe a treatment to the patients and their families. It's their only hope. The main message is that we need the funding for research, yes, but the Commission has to fulfil the mandate conferred upon it from the European Parliament, from our chamber. But not only us, there are over 2 million of Europeans waiting for this to happen and are hoping that it will. Thank you. Mrs. Auken.
Ja, jeg kommer til at tale dansk. I'll speak Danish. Men lige sige først og fremmest tak til...
Yes, I'm going to be speaking Danish. I'd like to thank the petitioner because it's extremely important that we put this on our agenda. In the case of very many conferences here in the European Parliament and elsewhere, we've talked about this disease and people are quite frustrated because we're not making any progress. We can't have proper diagnoses and it should be possible. It's important that we take this seriously. This is a disease. It's dreadful. I mean, there may be a mental psychological aspect to it, but it's not being properly addressed. Last year, we adopted a resolution in the European Parliament, and we asked that the necessary financial resources be made to for research into properly diagnosing this illness. And a lot of what the Commission has just said was very positive. We can see that they're willing to do something, but it wasn't all that clear. And I think it would be good if the Commission could be a lot clearer, i.e. Actually say that they're going to be targeting funding for this particular disease and research into this disease, and that they're going to assume responsibility for doing work and perhaps have a more broader research. I'm not too sure how definite this is, but if you take a look at COVID-19, it would appear that perhaps it also can trigger, I mean, maybe it's a kind of allergic reaction. But obviously we'll only know this when we have the proper outcome and results of research. And I think it would be rather good if the Commission could state very clearly. There was quite a long speech, but it would be good to have some kind of a promise, a commitment to make sure that the resources are made available. And obviously, the petition should be kept open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'm giving the floor to Mr. Adam Cosa.
Először is szeretnék köszönetet mondani a panaszosnak, hogy újból kiállt.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to thank the the petitioner, and we've heard certain comments. I must say it is very good that we've heard from her, because we know that in 2019 she came along, explained everything. In the meantime, we know that the Commission has tried to speed up some developments, but I would like to reassure the petitioner, because here in the Petitions Committee, her particular case is in very good hands. We know that other goals for projects are going to be published over the coming months, and we do have to come up with results. Perhaps development is a little slow, but I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It is true that not enough attention has been paid to this disease, and we really have to now focus on the impact of the disease and the consequences of the disease, and do this on a scientific basis. We know that according to science, it's not a disease that can be treated today. So those patients who actually suffer from ME basically have to live with it. I myself am fighting against the obstacles in the path of my own day-to-day life. I myself live with a disability, but those people who live with ME have to make those kind of efforts as well. They have to fight against chronic fatigue, and I really feel that the Commission has to focus on these aspects as well. So thank you very much for having not given up your fight.
The floor to the petitioner, to Ms. Evelien.
Miss Evelien, please press speak button.
I would like to thank you for discussing this important subject. We really appreciate your strong support for this important disease, and your support is giving us real hope. Most of all, it allows us to count on concrete action and timely progress that will make a real difference. We hope that you will keep supporting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And of course that all PETI committee, we are going to work on this petition, and we are not going to leave you and all the patients alone. Por tanto, después de escuchar.
So having heard from the Commission and the petitioner and the members of the Petitions Committee, we have decided to keep the petition open, and we demand of the Commission that they comply with the resolution that was adopted unanimously at the plenary session last year in the European Parliament, where we have requested additional funding for biomedical research into ME. The Commission has set out a programme. There's the new European Union for Health. This is a new programme. This is new. It's got 10 times as much by way of budget compared to individual health projects, medical projects. So we would very much urge the Commission to make the most of this European Union for Health in order to comply with a resolution that was adopted unanimously by the European Parliament. And obviously, on behalf of the Petitions Committee, we will be monitoring what's going on. So thank you very much. Ms. Auken.
I put some precise questions to the Commission, and it could be nice if the Commission could reply already now on the questions. Are there, clear money allocated to this year?
Okay. I see that the Commission is still here with us, so I'm going to give the floor to her to answer all these questions. But if all the MEPs you agree, the decision is done, it's open, and we are requiring the Commission to fulfill, to achieve our resolution that we already approved with an unanimity in the plenary, and to use the European Union for Health program to invest and help all these patients. So go ahead, the member of the Commission, Ms. Catherine.
Yes, thank you, and thank you to all MEPs for their input. And we understand that it is a very important issue that more funding is allocated to this disease. With the scoping study, we intend to better understand what are really the reasons for this disease not being researched as it should, and try to identify which are the research priorities and research needs that would help answering at best the patient needs. So that should definitely help us devising future topics for the future work programs. So we, as you know, under Horizon Europe, are not focusing on specific diseases, but via this scoping study, we will try and see how to foster at best research into those conditions which are under-researched and which nevertheless pose a very high public health burden, such as ME, CFS. So we are confident that in the future there will be specific projects dedicated to these diseases. And like we have seen actually already in the past framework program for research and innovation. I think we have already quite a substantial number of projects that could feed in the evidence basis that we are lacking for the moment. And we stand ready to translate the research results into best practices and be in contact with our colleagues from DG Santé to make sure that we can accelerate the translation of these results into concrete solutions for patients. And we take good note of all the areas which would benefit from more research and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to the point 8,